beginning in verse 21 of Ephesians chapter 5, reading from the Message Bible. Let's read together. Out of respect for Christ, be courteously reverent to one another. Wives, understand and support your husbands in ways that show your support for Christ. The husband provides leadership to his wife the way Christ does to his church, not by domineering, but by cherishing. So just as the church submits to Christ as he exercises such leadership, wives should likewise submit to their husbands. Husbands, go all out in your love for your wives, exactly as Christ did for the church, a love marked by giving, not by getting. I want to begin a new series this morning from this subject, 7 rules on how to approach a Christian. 7 rules on how to approach a Christian. You may be seated in the Lord's presence. And somebody is saying, I'm glad it's a series because he said he had 7 rules. And if it takes him that long to get through all 7, we're going to be here a long time this morning. No, I want to break it into some pieces. The largest and best relationship manual in the entire world is the Bible. When the Bible begins its pages in Genesis chapter 1 up to Genesis chapter 3, it is consumed with relationships. The first husband and wife relationship is recorded in Genesis chapters 1 through chapter 3. And then the first family relationship is recorded in Genesis 1 through Genesis chapter 3 and the chapters that come immediately behind it. All over the sacred scriptures, there are relationships. And so I deem it appropriate to pause for just a moment to deal with this subject of relationships, especially as it relates, watch this, to serious Christians. Serious Christians. There's some serious single Christians in this room. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. I know there's some singles in here, but everybody ain't serious. I know there are folks who are watching online, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You saved, but you're not that serious. And the benefit that today's message may be for you if you are saved and not serious is that perhaps it will urge you to become serious. Because the more serious you are about your walk with God, the more serious God will be to provide you with a serious partner to walk alongside of you. And it could very well be that the reason some of us are stuck where we are is because we are not serious enough about our relationship with God. And the reason God has not given you a special someone yet is because you would mess them up. So sometimes God has got to get them ready, and other times God has got to get us ready. For some of us, you had to learn how to appreciate a hero, so God sent you 1 or 2 zeros first and let them pass by so you would know how to spot the real thing when it finally showed up. I want to take this subject matter and break it into some manageable pieces. Here's the first thing I want to share by way of introduction: the dangers of Christian dating. The dangers of Christian dating. There are two. There are 2 dangers when it comes to dating people who love God. Here's the first danger. Some Christians are in a hurry. And you got to be careful about connecting yourself to people and you're on level 2 in your speed of moving forward, and they on level 2002. You ask them out to dinner and they are picking out China patterns at P.F. Chang. You don't even know her middle name yet. You're already making plans for the altar. Some Christians are in a hurry. And watch this. Here's why it's dangerous to connect with people who are in a hurry. It is because you do not want to disappoint them. Which means you got to wait until God creates a set of circumstances for you where not only are both of you moving in the same direction, but you are moving at the same rate of speed. Same rate of speed. Some folks are in a hurry. And you got to find out from people, what's your time frame? What do you have in mind? Because someone will tell you, you got 30 minutes. And if you ain't ready to park a deal in 30 minutes, let me find somebody who is ready. There are some Christians who are in a hurry. All right, here's the second danger of Christian dating. Not only is it true that there are some Christians who are in a hurry, but there are some Christians who have been hurt. Some Christians who have been hurt. That's why you got to be careful who you connect yourself with, because sometimes you will find yourself bleeding on people who didn't cut you in the first place, and you cause other some of us saints don't know when to be honest, but there's some grown, single, serious, saved people who are suffering with post-traumatic stress disorder based on things that have happened to you in previous relationships. And you've got to learn that when you are hurting, that may not be the best time to connect yourself to another person because you are not healed yet. And you find yourself clicking on people, calling them out their name. You don't call them a bad name. You just call them the name of the person who hurt you most recently. Say, you know what, Ray? He said, my name is Michael, ma'am. Yeah, but you got a Ray spirit all over. A Ray spirit all over you. So there are dangers as it relates to Christian dating. But not only is it true that there are some dangers when it comes to Christian dating, there are also some do's and don'ts of Christian dating. And that's what I want to address in this series. What are the do's and don'ts when it comes to serious Christians who want serious relationships that will honor God both in the present and in the future? And here's why these things are so important. Because the people you date can become the person you marry. And the person you marry can become the mother or father of your children. And that person may also become the grandmother or grandfather of your future grandsons and future granddaughters. You got to be careful how you pick. You need to investigate some stuff. If you buy a used car, one of the first things they recommend that you do is to check the Carfax. That means I need the history on this thing. How many accidents has it been in? How many owners has it had? How many times has the title been transferred? What kind of gas you been putting in this thing? Because the manufacturer calls for 93, but you've been putting in 87. And you wonder why it's skipping. Because you've been putting the wrong stuff in it in the first place. So I want to hand you 7 rules. We won't get through all 7 of them today. I don't know how many we'll get through today. But I want to start with the first one. All of them are found in Ephesians chapter 5. Now, Sister Marcella, in praying about this message, praying about this text, I wanted to be very specific. So I was praying, Lord, Should I talk about it from the male perspective, the female perspective, or should I try to address both at the same time? And here's what I believe, Brother Juan, the Lord instructed me to do. He said, Thought, approach it from the female's perspective and let the men catch up. So if you don't get this morning, that's between you and the Lord. But I want to approach it from the perspective of a serious single female who is waiting on God to send her a serious Christian male that she might complete the journey of life with. So I want to speak from the female perspective, and the dudes will catch up as we go along. And if your dude don't catch up, he might not be your dude. So here's number one. Here's first thing you find in Ephesians chapter 5 as it relates to how men and women ought to deal with each other. And again, I'm speaking from the perspective of the female. Rule number one, when it comes to the 7 rules on approaching any Christian. This means don't even show up if you can't follow these rules. Here's rule number one. Here's what all godly sisters are saying. Don't come for me empty-handed. Now, anything that I say that sounds like a negative is really going to be a positive. But don't come for me empty-handed. Let me say it another way. Don't come for me broke. All right? I'm not saying what you think I'm saying. Let me say it a little different. Here is a question that every Christian man ought to ask himself. It is this: can I afford a real Christian woman? Can I afford one? What do I bring to the table? Can I afford one? Let me push it a step further. Bro, because some brother just tuned me out in the spirit. Say, Pastor, I ain't trying to find no gold digger. No, but you need some silver, some wood, aluminum, or something. You ain't got to be gold, but you got to have you got to have something. The fact that the brother is not empty-handed does not mean that his pockets are necessarily full. Because some folks are saying, I don't want a man if he doesn't have a credit score over 750. He can't be renting. He's got to own. He's got to have at least one automobile paid for. He's got to have several $100,000 in his retirement portfolio. And you got this whole list of things you're looking for in a man. But what you got? You say credit score over 750 for real? That's what you want him to have? And your score looks like a sick man's EKG. They won't even let you rent a red box movie and keep it overnight. You got to bring it back before the sun goes down. He can't come for you empty-handed, but that does not necessarily mean that his pockets need to be full. Here's the inference of the text, and we'll read it in a moment. You don't have to be rich, but you have to have the kind of giving spirit that says that if I have $1, you at least got 50 cents. Let me park it in your living room. Don't come for a real Christian woman if you are stingy. So, Lord, show you somebody, there's an attraction. You say, Lord, this might be the one. Y'all go out to eat in separate automobiles because you don't know him. Meet him there. I ain't trying to set nobody up for failure. Meet him there. Meet him there. and have some discussions on the way based on whatever restaurant y'all gonna go to so that everybody's clear on what might be ordered that day. Don't invite me to a steakhouse and look at me funny when I don't order the chicken. You invited me to a steak house. And she looking at the menu, she said, that porterhouse looks good. That tomahawk looks good. That prime rib looks good. And he said, did you see the chicken Alfredo? Did you see that? Did you see that on there? I saw it, but and she says to the waiter, I want you to give me that 20-ounce tomahawk. She ain't trying to break him. She just hungry. And ain't nothing wrong with being hungry. Give me that 20-ounce tomahawk steak with the baked potato and the sweet potato souffle casserole. And then the waiter say to him, well, what will you have? He said, how much are these side items y'all got on there? Let me get these fries. Is it any less if I don't have no salt on the fries? Just let me have. Matter of fact, don't bring me all the fries. Just kind of cut the order in half. And watch him when it comes time to give the tip. Because if he will shortchange the waiter or the waitress, it is very possible that he may shortchange you in the long run. Watch verse 25 through verse 27. I'm not making this up. Here's verse 25. God says of husbands, go all in or go all out in your love for your wives, exactly as Christ did for the church, a love marked by giving, not getting. Christ's love makes the church whole. His words evoke her beauty. Everything he does and says is designed to bring the best out of her, dressing her in dazzling white silk, radiant holiness. That's how Christ loves the church, and a man ought to love his wife the same way that Christ loved the church, which was not a stingy love, it was a giving love. That means you don't have $1 million, but if you got a dime, can I at least get 5 out of the dime? Ladies, real Christian women, God is not going to send you a stingy man. And if you see one and he's stingy, he didn't come from God. You say, but Pastor, did you see his abs? Well, I don't know if you saw his abs, but you getting ready to see your ribs, because with the little bit he's going to be feeding you, your friends see you 6 months later, girl, you slimming down. It ain't costing no exercise. Because Earl's so cheap, we can't buy nothing around him. Here's what a real Christian woman says: don't come for me empty-handed. Empty-handed. That means you don't have to be rich. You don't have to be a baller and a shot caller with a Mr. T starter kit. Driving a car you can't afford to impress people you don't even like. You don't have to have all of that, but you can't be stingy. So the question becomes, can you afford a real Christian woman? And if you can't afford her, don't step to her. Go and let her walk on by. I would sing it, but y'all ain't ready for it. I almost did it. Some of y'all would have slipped straight out the spirit into the flesh for the rest of the time we're here. Don't come for me, real Christian godly woman says, don't come for me empty-handed, which means you ought to ask yourself, can I afford a real Christian woman? See, because there's some young men who are preparing for adult life. And you need to ask yourself whether or not you are positioned properly to handle the responsibility you are about to take on. if you got a car, are you willing to open the door for her to allow her to get in? Now, we call that chivalry. I call it safety. Because if you get in the car before she does, you don't know what kind of mischief is happening around the vehicle. These are dangerous times we're living in. So you got to watch as well as pray. I've seen people, it can be raining. The woman struggling, she ain't got no umbrella, nothing. He already in the car. He don't know where she is. He looking for her, trying to see if she survived. Don't come for me empty-handed. All right, here's rule number 2, in case you didn't like rule number 1. Here's rule number 2. Rule number 1, don't come for me empty-handed. Here's rule number 2. Don't come for me empty-headed. That means you got to have something in your hand. You got to have some substance. You can't be stingy. You got to have a giving heart. But then don't come for a real Christian woman empty-headed. All right, when I told you that you should never come for a real Christian woman empty-handed, the question was, can you afford a real Christian woman? But now that I'm telling you, don't come for a Christian woman empty-headed, the question is, can you intrigue a real Christian woman? Which means, sir, is there anything about you that is interesting enough to intrigue another person? When they sit down with you and have conversation, will they be like, tell me more? Or will they be like, check please? He's sitting down talking about, let me get one of these Horstiovers and some of this escargot. Sir, you're either in the wrong restaurant or you should have waited. You should have waited. I never forget, I was standing in what used to be one of my favorite spots, Taco Bell, don't judge me. Fellow walks in, Taco Bell, he's looking up at the menu. I'm like, bro, this menu ain't changed in years. You should have known something before you came in here. And he said, think I'm going to have one of them fidgeters. I'm like, bro, you didn't just say fidgeter in these people's place. Sir, that's a fajita. No, some stuff. When you come, you got to have something in your head. In your head. Some of us need to learn how to stay on our level. Everybody's got a level. Ain't no need. Ain't nothing wrong with staying on your level. Because a real Christian woman is not telling you don't come for anybody. She's just saying don't come for me. Which means you might work out just fine for somebody else. But don't come for me. I've shared with you all many times when I grew up, whenever there would be a hard rain in our neighborhood because of the drainage system, waterways would often flow and connect with each other. And you could go to the ditch near my parents' home, and after hard rain, you could see some stuff that you wouldn't ordinarily see. You would see large tadpoles, that's baby bullfrogs, large tadpoles. And then you would see minnows swimming. And then you would see crawfish after a hard rain. Tadpoles, minnows, and crawfish in the ditch. If you've ever gone fishing, however, in the ocean, you ain't gonna find no crawfish swimming around on the surface of the ocean. Now, you can find a marlin. That's a deep sea fish. You can find a shark. That's a deep sea fish. Hey, here's what you have never found. You have never walked into a restaurant or into anyone's home and they had a crawfish hanging on the wall. You go into some restaurants or some people's homes, and as a testimony to their deep sea fishing experience, whatever they caught, they can hang it on the wall. You'll see a blue marlin hanging on the wall. You'll see a hammerhead shark hanging on the wall. You ain't never seen a minnow, a tadpole, or a crawfish hanging on anybody's wall. And if the one you got is a minnow, tadpole, or crawfish, remind yourself where you caught him at. Pastor, I was at the gas station. He said, psst, psst, Slim, let me holler at you. How you doing? No. That's a ditch. And don't get mad at him later on when you discover he's got tadpole tendencies. Because that's where you found him at. He ain't even offer to pump your gas. Because he hanging out the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at you. You know what that is? That's a scrub. And a real Christian woman, I'm going to set somebody free today. A real Christian woman don't want no scrub. In 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 1 through verse 7, Peter does a magnificent job of explaining to us from a biblical perspective what God expects out of those who walk in long-term godly relationships. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 1 through verse 7. Again, I'm reading from the Message Bible. Watch what Peter says. The same goes for you wives. Be good wives to your husbands, responsive to their needs. There are husbands who, indifferent as they are to any words about God, will be captivated by your life of holy beauty. What matters is not your outer appearance, the styling of your hair, the jewelry you wear, the cut of your clothes, but the inner disposition. Cultivate inner beauty, the gentle, gracious kind that God delights in. The holy women of old were beautiful before God that way and were good, loyal wives to their husband. Sarah, for instance, taking care of Abraham, would address him as my dear husband. You'll be true daughters of Sarah if you do the same, unanxious and unintimidated. The same goes for you husbands. Be good husbands to your wives. Honor them. Delight in them. As women, they lack some of your advantages. But in the new life of God's grace, you're equals. Treat your wives then as equals so that your prayers don't run aground. That means just because he has a BMW, does he have any sense on how to treat somebody? So God says, don't come for the Christian woman, the serious Christian woman. Don't come for her empty-handed, but then you don't need to come empty-headed. With the question of being empty-handed, ask yourself, can I afford a real Christian woman, or am I stingy? Hey, and if you stingy, it's all right to be stingy by yourself. But don't connect yourself with anybody else if you're going to be stingy. Just go and get you a goldfish. Because you can afford to feed that. You put some breadcrumbs in there and take care of the goldfish. But if you want a whole nother person, a whole nother human being, ask yourself, can I afford it? Doesn't mean your pockets have to be full, but it does mean that whatever you have, you are willing to share it with those that God connects you with. Don't come for me empty-handed. Don't come for me empty-headed. Here's number 3. Don't come for me empty-hearted. Don't come for me empty-hearted. And the question attached to that is not, can you afford a real Christian woman, or can you intrigue a real Christian woman? The third question is, can you appreciate a real Christian woman? Which means you got to have a heart to care for someone that God cares for. In Ephesians Chapter 5, the basis of our discussion for these next weeks, Paul is emphatic in his position on how godly people ought to love each other in the context of relationships. Watch what he tells them in verse 29 through verse 30. Here's verse 29. Don't miss this. Don't miss this, because some of you have been given bad examples and you've been made to feel that real love can hurt sometimes. I never shall forget Pastor Ralph Jennings, who pastored in Jacksonville, Florida for some decades, was also a radio announcer. And one of the things that he would do periodically, he would pose a question to his listening audience, and then he would allow people to call in to give their responses. Now, this was on Christian radio. And one question he posed one day is it ever proper for a man to hit a woman? And then people started calling in to respond. And one man said, he said, this is what he said, this is what he said, this is what he said. He said, I don't think it's right to hit a woman. He said, but to be honest with you, I would still be married if I took a piece of red wood and went upside my old lady's head. And this was on Christian radio. Phone rings again. Female voice on the line. Announcer repeats the same question. Is it ever right for a man to hit a woman? The female voice responds, yes, if she's talking out of these were her exact words. Yes, if she's talking out of the side of her mouth. And Pastor Ralph Jennings immediately recognized that this was a younger voice. And he said to her, may I ask how old you are? She said, I'm 13. Now, what are we doing as a culture? What are we doing as a community? What are we doing as a church if our children are made to feel that it is acceptable to hurt people? Ephesians 5, verse 27 through verse 29 further explains how Paul understood, actually drop down to verse 29 through verse 30. It further explains how Paul understood how a real godly man treats a real godly woman. It's in verse 29. No one abuses his own body, does he? No. He feeds it and he pampers it. That's how Christ treats us, the church, since we are part of his body. You can't love me and slap me. Let me say that again. You can't love me and slap me. You can't love me and punch me. You can't love me and holler at me. Abuse comes in a lot of different forms. You can't love me and talk me down. You can't love me and belittle me. You can't love me and treat me like trash. Let me say it another way. I said before, you can't love me and slap me. I want to say now, you can't slap me and live. That's from the Gospel of Smith and Wesson, chapter 3, verse 33. Sometimes you got to speak in a language that people can understand. Because just because they want to treat you like a dog doesn't mean you got to stay there and act like a dog. And you got to plan early. You got to plan early. I tell people all the time, don't miss this, don't miss this, don't miss this. Never celebrate negative behavior just because someone else is receiving it. Okay, let me put it in your lap. Never celebrate negative behavior just because someone else is receiving it. You've been talking to somebody for a couple of weeks. You're praying about whether or not this is going to be long term. And you hear them on the phone having a conversation with their brother or sister, a relative in their family. Maybe their mom or dad, maybe their uncle or auntie. And they are going off on them. Because somebody borrowed some money, didn't pay it back right when and they just going off. Let me give you another scenario. Y'all go out, this is just a simple date. Could be somewhere fancy, could be something kind of low key, because there's a time for that. There's time for lobster, time for Chick-fil-A. There's time for a 20 ounce. There's time for a quarter pounder with cheese. There's time for everything. You order your food. You order a double Whopper with heavy pickles, no cheese. That's what you order. They bring your order out. You check it before you leave, and your order has cheese on it. And your man grabs the sandwich, blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window, takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. The sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. The sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. The sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. The sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. The sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. The sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. The sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. He said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules, Hercules. It's a sandwich. Blows his horn for the attendant to come back to the window. Takes the sandwich, slings it through the window. And he said, my lady say she didn't want no cheese. And y'all put cheese on this sandwich. And here you are in the passenger seat. Hercules.